Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj now.
The following is a class of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd Canto, 5th Chapter, text number 15, given by His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, recorded on November 3rd, 1996, in Bombay, India.
Narayana Paraveda Deva Narayanangaja Narayana Paraloka Narayana Paramaka. The Vedic literatures are made by and are meant for the Supreme Lord. The demigods are also meant for serving the Lord as parts of His body. The different planets are also meant for the sake of the Lord, and different sacrifices are performed just to please Him. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. According to the Vedanta Sutras, Shastra Yonitvat, the Supreme Lord is the author of all revealed scriptures, and all revealed scriptures are for knowing the Supreme Lord. Veda means knowledge that leads to the Lord. The Vedas are made just to revive the forgotten consciousness of the conditioned soul. And any literature not meant for reviving God consciousness is rejected at once by the Narayana Para devotees. Such deluding books of knowledge, not having Narayan as their aim, are not at all knowledge, but are the playgrounds for crows who are interested in the rejected refuse of the world. Any book of knowledge, science or art, must lead to the knowledge of Narayan. Otherwise it must be rejected. That is the way of advancement of knowledge. The supreme worshipable deity is Narayan. The demigods are recommended secondarily for worship in relation to Narayan. But the demigods are assisting hands in the management of the universal affairs. As the officers of a kingdom are respected due to their relation with the king, the demigods are worshipped due to their relation to the Lord. Without the Lord's relation, worship of the demigods is unauthorized. Avidhi Purvakam. Just as it is improper to water the leaves and branches of a tree without watering the root. Therefore, the demigods are also dependent on Narayan. The lokas, or different planets, are attractive because they have different varieties of life and bliss, partially representing the Satchitananda Vigraha. Everyone wants the eternal life of bliss and knowledge. In the material world, such an eternal life of bliss and knowledge is progressively realized in the upper planets. But after reaching there, one is inclined to achieve further progress along the path back to Godhead. Duration of life with a proportionate quantity of bliss and knowledge may be increased from one planet to another. One can increase the duration of life to thousands and hundreds and thousands of years in different planets, but nowhere is there eternal life. But one who can reach the highest planet, that of Brahma, can aspire to reach the planets in the spiritual sky, where life is eternal. Therefore, the progressive journey from one planet to another culminates in reaching the supreme planet of the Lord, Madham, where life is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge. All different kinds of sacrifice are performed just to satisfy Lord Narayan with a view to reach Him, and the best sacrifice recommended in this age of Kali is Sankirtan Yajna, the mainstay of the devotional service of the Narayana Para devotee. Is declaring quite clearly what is the cause and purpose of everything that exists. Krishna, Narayan, is the cause of all causes, and Krishna, Narayan, is also the goal of everything. Nate vidu swarata katim hi Vishnu. Prahlad Maharaj gave this wonderful instruction to Hiranyakashipu, that in this world people are struggling in so many ways for success and for happiness, but they are neglecting the simple principle of watering the root of the tree. If you do not water the root of the tree will not be happy. It cannot survive. Krishna is the root of everything. If Krishna is satisfied, then we become satisfied. Otherwise, any attempt for material enjoyment is destined to fail. Hiranyakashipu was such a first-class materialist. Literally, he performed such tapasya that even the devatas in the heavens were being burnt by the flames that were emanating from the top of his head. Such power. And they all came before Lord Brahma and said, "Save us, his tapasya is going to destroy the whole universe." So it was Lord Brahma. He came down, the same Brahma that is speaking this transcendental knowledge today. And he gave him a powerful, powerful body. A body that no one but Brahma himself could have possibly created. Hiranyakashipu wanted strength. He wanted infallibility that could conquer everyone. And he knew that by his own accord He could not develop such a condition. So what he did is he worshipped Lord Brahma. And how he worshipped Brahma? Through such kind of austerities. 100 celestial years of standing on the tips of his toes, Tadasan, with his arms above his head, not moving, giving up eating, sleeping, drinking, practically giving up breathing. And what kind of tolerance over the thousands and thousands and tens and thousands of years. Ants built ant hive around him, and those ants and other insects were eating his flesh, and yet his hands, which were reached up on top above his head, would not come down. Sometimes in kirtan we raise our arms and we have hard time just keeping them up through one mantra. Our arms are getting tired. He kept his arms up for hundreds celestial years. And when a little fly comes on us, we become disturbed, and wherever our hand is, it has to go to where the fly is. What to speak of a mosquito is biting, or if there is some little scratch like this. But he kept his arms above his head without moving them, and there were insects eating his flesh. And they actually ate all his flesh. There was nothing except his bones. And yet, he did not move. He was like a statue of stone. He was so determined. He was so determined for sense gratification. Just to enjoy his senses, he was willing to endure so much hardship. Because he knew that Brahma would come. He was forcing Brahma to come. He was not a bhakta of Brahma. Bhakta means you want to please. He was not trying to please Lord Brahma. He was trying to perform such a incredible manifestation within the universe that Brahma was obliged. He had to come and give him whatever he wanted. And Brahma came. Brahma gave him such a body that he could conquer the whole universe, except for Brahma's own abode. So powerful he was. And little Prahlad told him, in essence, Father, you are in Maya, you are in illusion. Nate vidhu swaratakatim hi Vishnu. The only goal of life is Vishnu, Narayan. Everything is meant for the pleasure of Narayan. Therefore, if you want my opinion, you should cover your body with the dust from the feet of the Vaishnavas and surrender to Narayan. Now Hiranyakashipu, he hated Narayan, because his own brother Hiranyaksha was killed by him. He wanted to challenge the very power and force that was the source of the death of his brother, who was equally as great as him. It is a fact that we have seen all of our relatives being destroyed by Krishna in the form of time. All of our friends. And that force of time is also coming upon us. But we are fighting against it. We are fighting and fighting. And material civilization, everyone is dedicating their lives to fight against the inevitable. The inevitable is misery and death. And through so many forms of intoxication, people are somehow or other trying to forget the reality of the world that they are in, the place of misery and death. And modern civilization is to cover that. In spiritual cultures, People do not try to cover that reality. They discuss it openly, and they're willing to look at it and see it for what it is. But to the degree a society is materialistic, they do not want to think about it. They don't want to be reminded. They want to enjoy to their full capacity by completely intoxicating themselves in one way or another to forget the reality that this world is a place of misery and death. They want the enjoyment, the bliss of the spiritual world without Krishna. They want either themselves or someone else, but not Krishna. Last night we were discussing this infamous concert that took place 2 days back. Pilgrimage of crows. What is the... Prabhupada explains that the swans, they go to the beautiful clear lake where there are nice lotus flowers growing. And the swan especially drinks the nectar from the stem of the lotus flower. And those who are swan-like people, they find their enjoyment in going to those pious places where the nectar of Hari Katha and Hari Kirtan is always being sung. And such swans are always seeking the opportunity to come on a pilgrimage to those places. But the crows, they like to go. You never see crows in a nice, beautiful lake with lotus flowers. They are not interested. It's boring to them. The taste of nectar is too subtle for them. They like nice, crude stool, urine, and garbage, rotten garbage. Fresh garbage is not so nice, rotten. The more rotten, the more taste for a crow. And wherever there's big, nice garbage and sewage, you will find a pilgrimage of crows. Eating, drinking, sucking, fighting over it. And that is their form of enjoyment. So subject matters of this material world and sense gratification, it is all like garbage. It is all like sewage. And those people who are like crows, they go on pilgrimage to those places where they can best enjoy their senses and hear about all kinds of worldly sound vibrations. And Srila Prabhupada explained that old crows, they've been eating this garbage so long. They just do it because they don't know what else to do, but it's not a very exciting thing for them. But new crows, who haven't tasted this stool and urine yet, they are very excited, very ambitious. They will work so hard to taste that refuse. So the people of the West, Srila Prabhupada explained, they are like old crows. Their whole culture is based around sense gratification from the very beginning. Generation after generation after generation, they are just enjoying the facilities of the animals, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, and creating so much science, technology, entertainment that just arouses their animal propensities and gives them some sense of enjoyment. But they're not so excited about this. But when Indians come to the West, they are very excited. They've never tasted this before. They've never had such facilities for sense gratification. And they are the hardest workers. They will work so hard, and they are so excited, and they're so enlivened, and it's so new and fresh, they just never want to go back to India. They'll send money to India. They don't want to come back. Maybe to visit, but this is a terrible place. There's not enough garbage and refuse here. Too many lotus flowers here. And Prabhupada saw this. He called the Indians in the West the new crows. The most excited, enthusiastic eaters of garbage and stool and urine. But now they have opened the doors of India to Western culture. So now what we have is a whole country of new crows. Yeah. And one famous person from the West comes to India in order to give the type of sense gratification that the Westerners like, which is basically just total bombardment and infatuation of the senses toward enjoyment. That's all. They spend millions of dollars with all kinds of machinery and all kinds of special effects just to mesmerize your mind, and every one of your senses just becomes conquered by this temporary experience. And it's all sexual energy. That's all it is. Because sexual energy is the most intoxicating form of garbage, refuge, sewage. It brings out the lowest tendencies of the animal nature within us. Because after all, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, we all have a higher self and a lower self. The higher self wants to be good, to be kind, and to surrender to God. And the lower self wants to be an animal. We can't even talk about what our lower self is saying sometimes. It just wants to eat, sleep, mate, and defend in the most intensified possible ways. And culture, civilization, means an atmosphere created within society where the lower self is subdued and the higher self is encouraged. That is called civilization of human beings. Where anything that arouses those animal tendencies are minimized and they are outlawed. And those things that bring about goodness and charity and devotion and realization of the higher truth, those things should be encouraged. That is civilization. That is Varnashram Dharma. But here, someone is coming who is empowered by Maya to arouse the sexual energy and the lower animalistic propensities in human beings. With millions of dollars of technology, all aimed to do only that. And in the West, people go to see, but they're not very excited about it. They're just not, they go, because that's all they know is these things. I remember what young people used to do they still do. They just drive around in their cars. What should we do tonight? And I'm giving you a summary study of the Western culture for the young generation. They get in their car and they start driving and they start talking to each other. What do you want to do tonight? I don't know. What do you want to do tonight? I don't know. What do you want to do tonight? There's nothing to do tonight. And then they drink liquor, and they smoke drugs, and then they're driving, well, what do you want to do tonight? I don't know, what do you want to do tonight? And then maybe they'll find somebody from the opposite sex, what do you want to do? I don't know, what do you want to do tonight? So they go to these concerts and all these things just because they don't know what to do. That's all. They just don't know what to do, they have nothing to do, they know nowhere to go. They're lost. So they listen to this music that just temporarily makes them forget that they're lost. Just and then when the music's over, what do you want to do now? I don't know. What do you want to do? I'm speaking not only from theoretical. I have lived there. 18 years I have seen. This is Western civilization. And yet, it is such a fascination. People go to these types of concerts and entertainments and they, yes, all right, something to do. And their senses are bombarded, but their senses are so bombarded, it hardly even affects them anymore. Huh? It's like if you've been beat on the head so many times, if somebody beats you again, you're just like, no problem, no problem. But when Maya sends her agents to India with a whole, so many plane loads of garbage and sewage, right? Spending millions of dollars, big cargo planes with cargoes of sewage and garbage. And then it's advertised, not just advertised, but everywhere. Billboards spending millions of dollars. And then, all of a sudden, the time comes. From all their nests, the new crows come flying in. So many new crows, they need thousands of policemen just to somehow or other organize this pilgrimage. And what do? They all just flap their wings and go caw, caw, caw. And that's the sensation of this century in India. It is so sad. Civilization means that we fill our mind and we fill our senses with those purifying, wonderful forms of happiness, of dancing and chanting, while chanting Krishna's holy name. So Hiranyakashipu, what kind of facility he had for material enjoyment. But he was always frustrated. He was never happy. People go to these kinds of concerts, they become mesmerized, and their senses are just totally bombarded, and they feel like they're in some sort of animalistic type of ecstasy. And then afterward, I was there. And that's it. And actually there's depression. It's gone. The modes of passion and ignorance have been aroused. Any clarity of inner truths that they may have ever perceived are just buried by refuge. And that's the result. It is sad. Hiranyakashipu conquered everything and he had every type of enjoyment, but he was miserable. Why? Because his heart was full of filth, full of dirt, full of lust and envy and greed, pride. And civilization means to orchestrate our lives to purify our heart, not put more garbage in our heart, but get rid of that garbage and keep it out. That is intelligence, that is sanity, that is human existence. That is the path to real peace and transcendental love. We must understand that it is Narayan, Krishna, who is actually the goal of our life. And we should be very conscious to associate with those people, to hear those sound vibrations, to perform those activities that bring us closer to Narayana. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has made it so enjoyable. Because actually the spiritual world is a place of happiness. It is a place of the greatest fun. We read about Krishna and cowherd boys, how they are playing so many wonderful intimate games with each other, such nice relationships. Simply love. Ecstasy comes through love. But if we try to find that love by reposing that propensity in someone that is not worthy of our love, it is frustrated. And because people have forgotten that Narayan is the goal of life, they put so many other idols and so many other people and try to repose their love in them. But there's no love. It's like we are discussing these big materialistic entertainers. Wherever they go, people are mad after them. They want to see them. They want to touch them. They want to get their autographs. They want to pull their hairs out. They want something from them. They have to have bodyguards. You don't have bodyguards from people who love you. You have bodyguards from people who want to exploit you. So we saw in the newspaper how when this concert began, the deity was late. The people were going mad just waiting for him, expectation. Where is he? Why he's late? And it came to the point everyone was just screaming out his name. Screaming out his name. Not Harinam. Some other type of Nam. And they were calling, and then he appeared. And then everyone was just fainting and crying and screaming and everything else that they do. And then they all started dancing. We have our greeting the deities every day, where we're anxiously waiting to see Shri Radha Gopinath. And the curtains open, and it's a wonderful, wonderful darshan. And then we start dancing. So this is the spiritual world. But without Krishna, they are trying to create that world without Krishna, trying to create some substitute. But their substitutes never work. Because Krishna is eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. He is Satchit Ananda Vigraha. But these other replacement Krishnas, they are growing old. They're trying to stop it through so many processes, but they cannot stop it. And ultimately there's no love. There may have been 50,000 people, but nobody loves this person. They're just trying to exploit him for their own sense gratification in the name of love. That's all. And those people are the loneliest people in the world. There have been so many before. When I was young, there was one man, he was just like, everyone was mad. Women were screaming and fainting and crying just upon saying his name, what to speak of seeing him. So many bodyguards. And everyone wanted to be with him, to touch him, to eat with him, to do anything with him. But the man was so lonely, he was so frustrated, that ultimately he died of overdose, of taking drugs to try to uplift his depression. And he was the king. He was the king. These days, these men are nothing compared to him. And then the next king, after this one, there were 4 of them. And the leader, he was so frustrated and lonely, although the whole world is mad after him. He just went into seclusion and disappeared. and said, I just want to have a family and just forget I ever did this. Forget I ever had such popularity. And these are the gods they're worshiping. And ultimately, he was killed. And they're still worshiping. So these people who try to take such a position, they are lonely, they are suffering, they find no love, no happiness in their life. And the people who are trying to aspire to find that Krishna prem in them, they are frustrated. So the Vedic civilization is very simple. Just give up all your nonsense. Understand who is the real object of love, who is the real object of your adoration and your service, and whose name will actually really bring you to the destination of eternal bliss. It is Krishna. He is the source of everything, He is the goal of everything. And if we simply understand this, we can be happy. Bhoktaram jagatapasam sarvalokamaheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatvam shantim richchiti. We all have our choice, whether we want to be swan or crow. And if you want to be a swan, you associate with swans. If you want to be a crow, you associate with crows. If you want to associate with swans, you go to the nice temples, the nice holy places where swans are always found, drinking nectar. And if you want to be with crows, there are so many pilgrimage places. There are so many restaurants and so many stadiums and so many places where the crows are gathered together. Birds of a feather flock together, literally. Srila Prabhupada was so kind, so merciful, so full of love and compassion that under the influence of Lord Nityananda Prabhu's causeless and supreme mercy, he wanted to make all the crows into swans. He wanted to redirect everyone's attention away from all of these miserable substitutes and idols of this world and bring their consciousness back to Krishna. And India is such a place where if people are just given some direction, they are so close to Krishna. When Prabhupada spoke at Cross Maidan in 1971, 20,000 people came to hear him speak Bhagavad Gita and chant the holy names of Krishna. And Kumbh Mela, unfortunately now, Kumbh Mela, there are so many people teaching so many things. It's quite rare to find someone speaking the truth. But just the natural sentiment of the culture of India is how many 10, 20 million people go? Krishna is still the most popular in India. You will not get 10, 20 million people to come to see these imitation Krishnas. But they will come to Prayag. It's cold, sometimes it's rainy, there's no proper facilities practically, you have to sleep in tents, but still 20 million people sometimes come to the Kumbh Mela. And for Srila Prabhupada's Premanjali, he didn't do that much advertising, and nearly 40,000 people came to just glorify Prabhupada. Only in India is this possible. Because India is the land of Dharma. India is the land where there is a heritage of spiritual culture, and people have an inner sense that yes, I don't want to take another birth and be degraded. I want to be liberated. I want to understand God and the truth. It is the natural tendency of anyone born in India. But somehow or other, due to association with crows, the nation is becoming a nest of crows. And more and more and more and more of Maya's agents are being sent on their mission, because if India is finished, the world is finished as far as any spiritual hope. So this Krishna consciousness movement was the expression of Srila Prabhupada's great love and compassion. Within India, outside of India, everywhere, let all these people who are frustrated or in the process of being frustrated, let them find real happiness and peace in Krishna. Austerities you have to perform. But what is the result? Even in material life. That concert I saw in the article, people had to stand in traffic jams for hours, and they were crowded in this crazy place for hours. So much tapasya. But it is tapasya in the modes of passion and ignorance. And then their senses become bombarded. And they think, oh, that was a lifetime experience. It's true, you'll have to take another life and another life and another life due to these experiences. But if we perform some tapasya for Krishna, what is the result? What is the goal? The greatest treasure of peace, happiness, and love. So Krishna is the goal. And those people who help us to remember Krishna, they are Krishna's representatives. So we want to be with them. We want to follow them. We want to worship them, because through them we get Krishna. And this is the sum and substance of this beautiful verse. Lord Brahma is the creator of everything within this universe, and he is making it quite clear that the only goal of life is Krishna, Narayan. Do not divert your attention anywhere else, to anything else, or you will simply suffer. You will simply suffer. It is not a question of maybe or if, you will. But in Krishna, we have to suffer in this world somehow, but if we endure the suffering to be Krishna conscious, the result, the goal is the most wonderful experience. Krishna Prema. Krishna Pumartha Mahan. Prema Pumartha Mahan. Mahaprabhu said there is only one goal of life, and that is the greatest goal, and that is to love Krishna. By chanting his holy name. Is there any questions?
This was the first concert in India. The history of Indian culture, whatever, this was the first one.
This was the first?
Yeah.
I don't know.
In Bombay, basically it was the first. And as you said that in the Western countries, they are all old crows. They are already saturated. They have seen all these things and they are saturated.
But they still do. Because there's nothing else to do.
So what I mean to ask you, Maharaj, is these young people of India, they have experienced for the first time, and they have not reached to the saturation level till this date. They would like to have more and more and more and more. So the culture of India will be degrading from now. So what will be the change that will be coming into this country of the degradation level? Because we have to be mentally prepared to face all them.
You should chant your rounds every day. come for Bhagavatam class every day. And let us propagate the wonderful joy of Krishna consciousness in such a way that these young people especially, that they will understand the proper alternative. Most of the young people that are coming to our temple now, if they didn't meet devotees and taste the bliss of chanting, dancing, and feasting, they probably would have been at that concert too. But the more people we reach with the message of the absolute truth, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, the more people that taste the nectar of kirtan and satsang, they will not be interested in these things. To say, if you experience a higher taste, these lower tastes have no fascination. You can see through it. You can see it for what it is. So it is our great service to somehow or other preach in so many ways, by wonderful programs, wonderful festivals, wonderful kirtans, wonderful pravachan, wonderful satsang. In so many ways we must give people the opportunity to taste Krishna consciousness. Otherwise they are bound to have their minds stolen by illusion. You have to know they're all looking for Krishna, but they just don't know who he is or where he is. And if we don't show them, they'll look for him somewhere else, and they will suffer. That answer your question?
What I meant to ask you, Maharaj, is how the young people's consciousness will be changing again as the more and more this type of programs will be coming. So how their consciousness will be changing unless and until reach to a saturation level?
Well, two things will happen. One is devotees have to try to save them by giving them Krishna consciousness, and many will come. The more we preach, the more people will come, because people in India are looking for Krishna. The more we expose them to Krishna as he is, it has to be Krishna in truth. Not the way so many people are presenting Krishna in another way. But if they get Krishna as it is, as he is, Bhagavad Gita as it is, they will come. They will be saved, they will be salvaged from this world of illusion. And others, to the degree these influences come into the country, people will become more and more degraded. They will become more and more sinful. There will be more varna sankara, unwanted population. The concept of marriage will be considered something very light and not important. The concept of divorce will become just a very regular convenience. The concept of illicit sex will become something very ordinary and acceptable. The concept of intoxications and drugs will become more and more prominent. And through all this there will be more envy, more greed, more pride, more everything. So actually it will accelerate people becoming miserable. And in the end people will become very miserable. When Srila Prabhupada went to the West, he found people who were miserable. They had all this. They were overdosed, and they realized it was useless. We want something else. And Prabhupada gave them, and they gave their life to take it. So in that sense, people will come to Krishna consciousness, but they will have to suffer terribly before. And the whole society will become very degraded before. So it's best if we can reclaim as many people as possible to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Radha Gopinath and let them dance in the kirtan of Harinam. Yes.
Recently I had been to Satara. In one college I was speaking to youngsters and I asked them a question. Why are you blindly taking to Western culture? And one boy stood up and said, it is only because no one ever told us what is the Sanatana Dharma.
What is what?
What is the Sanatana Dharma? No one told us like this. And I was really speechless, realizing that there is really no one to tell them what is the reality, what is the real goal of life. So under such circumstances where truly people have no access to understand what is the real goal of life, and where our temple has potential of telling what is the truth, how best we can expand in various parts of the country to tell the truth, to tell the Sanatana Dharma, to tell the movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How best we can put down our efforts to let people understand what is the real goal of life.
You should not be mudha. You should not work like such an ass that you have no time to be compassionate to others. We should make our priorities in life, and we should do the needful in our occupation and have as much time as possible to preach and to assist the preachers. And that is what we could all do. By our example, by our wealth, by our physical efforts, we should be really understanding the emergency situation and trying to extend everything we have in a mood of compassion to the fallen souls and those who are being misguided. Srila Prabhupada said the people of India are so close to Krishna, but so many are running the opposite direction. Then if they just understand the truth, as Srila Prabhupada and the great acharyas have taught, so many people will say, yes, this is what I want. I will not be fooled anymore by the powers of Maya. Through book distribution, through satsang programs, through prasadam distribution, through wonderful temple atmosphere, there are so many ways that we can reach people with Krishna's message. But you see, most young people, they hear the sadhus speak in generally Mayavad or impersonalistic philosophy. It has no flavor to the heart. It's all intellectual. They might as well go to a concert and hear rock and roll music. in the sense that at least they're getting some perverted experience of a taste. But Mayavad philosophy, there's no taste. It doesn't touch the heart. And these are the people that are presenting Sanatana Dharma. What they require is to hear about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, about the glory of bhakti, the glory of prema, and the glory of kirtan. Very well. One more question? Yes.
Maharaj, as you mentioned that India is, they are trying to find happiness in so many other things, but they become more and more depressed. And when we take Krishna consciousness to them, they want to accept it because they find something real, the truth about, something good about it. But at the same time, the generation before them, the parents, they don't want them to accept this. They want them to become religious, but the way they want. Maybe some rituals. They say they are following Varnashram system, but that is all mixed caste system, and they just want to do what they think that is right. So in this case, and even the youth, because they are Indians, they are little pious, they want to follow their parents also. So what is the role of a preacher in this situation? How to convince the parents, how to convince that generation that please allow your children to take to Krishna consciousness?
You just said, you appeal to the parents. Please allow your children to take to Krishna consciousness. And if they say, yes, very good, then that is very good. And if they say no, then we tell the children, Krishna is your father, Krishna is your mother. Krishna is your wealth, your treasure, and your life and soul. Chant Krishna's name, worship Krishna, remember Krishna, and tell everyone about Krishna. Does that answer your question? That is why so many young people in India are going to the slaughterhouse of Western civilization. Because the parents, so often, they simply are not giving them the higher taste. They're not even allowing them the higher taste. They would rather have their child be crammed up in a stadium singing sex songs than in a temple having darshan and chanting Harinam. Because at least if he's going to this stadium, he's going to become addicted to sense gratification. And if he's become addicted to sense gratification, he knows he has to work like an ass to get money for sense gratification. So let our son be like that. Let our daughter be like that. Then the money will roll in for us. And then they will enjoy their senses and be happy. But if they come to the temple, they'll become detached from sense gratification. And then they may not work like asses. Huh? So in one sense, coming to the temple is a greater threat than going to take intoxications or going to these sex shows. It's a fact. Parents are afraid that their children will become detached from material enjoyment. But they don't mind if they become attached to material enjoyment. That means they're not parents. They're animals. They can perform their pujas, and they can do their rituals, and they can put dots on their heads and all these things, but they're animals. human civilization is meant to decrease the fever of sense gratification and actually elevate the soul. And a parent, that is the duty, that the child will never take birth again in this material world. But they have no real faith in their scriptures. They have no real faith in their heritage. They just have some superstitious ideas and they perform their religion because it helps them in their sense gratification. So we have to save children from being misguided even by their parents. And actually you're doing the greatest service to the parents. If the child becomes a devotee, the parents will get the benefit. But we have to present the truth. And if children want this land of India to be what God wants it to be, they have to stand up for the truth, even if they have to stand against the ones they love. They have to do it. Otherwise they will just be sucked into Maya. It may be Maya in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance, but it's Maya. And we find that if a child is strong and firm, after some time, oftentimes the parents become devotees. What to speak of India, even in the West, parents become devotees. If the children just determined to not give up their Krishna consciousness, no matter what anyone says, no matter what pressures come from any place or any direction. But no one should stop us from the goal of life. The goal of life is to surrender to Krishna. The adulteration of what they call Hindu philosophy is the goal of life is to be a good son, to follow your parents. After all, Ram followed Dasarath, so you should follow me. That's correct. But you should be like Dasarath. He was a pure devotee. His whole life and soul was nothing but Ram. He was constantly chanting the names of Ram. He was constantly thinking of Ram. He was constantly serving Ram. When Vishwamitra Muni, the great sadhu, came and said, "Give me your son," Dasarath said, "Yes, take him." When you become a parent like that, then yes, I should follow you. But how can you expect me to follow? How do you expect me to be Ram if you're not Dasarath? Dasarath was like Hiranyakashipu. Ram would have killed him. He wouldn't have followed his direction. So this is the idea that Hinduism means you must obey your parents. You obey your parents, yes. But your parents have to guide you on the path of truth and light and self-realization. Otherwise, they're not really parents. You should respect, whatever they are, you should respect them. Whatever they are, you should offer your homage and your kindness to them. That is a fact. No one should disrespect their parents. But if they're not giving you the path of truth, you should not follow them. You should follow the path of truth. And that is coming from Krishna. That is love. Does that answer your question? Yes. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki